are and how valuable they are to our, not only to our state, to our culture and to our society. 80% of Black judges, HBCU graduates. 50% of Black lawyers, HBCU graduates. 50% of Black doctors, HBCU graduates. Nearly 50% of African-American engineers, HBCU graduates. And that is impactful when we talk about the role that HBCUs play for the state of Georgia in general, and really for the South. And, you know, I know that I was very pleased to be a part of some legislation that Senator Jackson has brought to me last year and again this year to emphasize and make sure that we're putting the proper emphasis and impact on HBCUs and their role in the state of Georgia. So I would be very, very remiss if I didn't thank everybody at Albany State and Fort Valley State and Savannah State, all of which have played a significant role in the state of Georgia, in our economy, in our welfare, in our quality of life, et cetera. So I would make that statement first, and just love to take any questions and discuss anything that might be on the mind of the panel. And by the way, I really went to great lengths to create the right motif behind me here. This background.
What is it?
I should have found one of those Google Maps to put behind me or something. But I am at my apartment in downtown Atlanta, and so I've changed clothes, and my wife is coming in, and we're gonna have dinner. That's why I've got to get off the phone soon.
All right, we're going to sort of take a prerogative and just ask you a few questions before you leave.
Sure.
We won't go through the whole thing, but we will ask you a few questions. Let me start with one, and then I'm sure we have some others come in, but this one may be a little bit more personal since I'm an alum of Savannah State, but last year, Savannah State, through the Board of Regents, of course, had an item in the budget for 4.
Roy, excuse me for a minute, but somebody's in the kitchen cooking and we can hear them.
Oh, you can smell it. I am having problems with that too. So I understand. But anyways, I was saying there was an item in the budget last year for 4.5 million for some projects that the university had. That item was taken out completely last year. It was not funded. Mm-hmm. It was allowed to be put back in this year by the regents. And since it has gotten to the governor's office, it has been cut by $1.3 million. Mm-hmm. And we are merely making a request to have someone fight to put that 1.3 million back in. And that's very critical to the university, particularly, because of the pandemic and so forth. And most of all, because it was taken out last year, it was needed last year, and the whole budget amount was taken out last year. And
let me ask real quickly, what was that 4.5? What is that project? What is that called? What is that project for?
It's for the, I got it, Roy.
Okay, great.
It's for the design, construction, and equipment for the campus-wide HVAC and access control infrastructure at Savannah State. And the governor recommended 2.75, 2,750,000, and I think the project is 4.50.
Okay, all right. Well, of course, Calvin, Lester, and Patty all know how difficult budget items can be from time to time. I will personally look into this myself. Right now, as y'all well know, we're working on the amended budget. And of course, this request would be in the big budget, I'm quite confident. And I'll be happy to look at that tomorrow. And I'll get back with Lester, and I'll be happy to take a look at that and see what we can do to shore that up and increase it a little bit.
Well, I appreciate it, Mr. Pro Tem.
Appreciate that very much, but I want you to know that that's not all we need, but since they took that out, we'd like to have that back in. But if you come up with any more, You know, the institution.
I understand. I got a couple of projects myself. But no, I say that a little bit in jest, but I mean that sincerely. You know, I was with the governor a few days ago, and I was pitching a certain project and telling him I really needed some help on the budget for him, and it was an economic, great economic impact to a community. And you know, he and I went down the list of the items that you're trying to include, and you're trying to prioritize, and you're trying to, you know, make sure that you can't do everything for everybody, but we can certainly do something for everybody. So I'll make sure that we take a look at that, and I'll work with Lester on that one and see what we can come up with on the Senate side.
Okay, thank you very much. Ken, do you have another one for the senator before he leaves?
Yes, there is a question here. It says here, in the current legislative session, will there be an increase in funding for HBCUs in the University System of Georgia Board of Regents?
You know, the Board of Regents, thank you for the question, and it is an appropriate question, because we look at the expenses and they look at the funding formulas. Sometimes the Board of Regents they take action that we don't necessarily agree with. The only thing worse than the Board of Regents running the colleges and universities in our state would be 236 legislators trying to run them. So we have to really rely on folks that can help us in that regard. But I will tell you this, as budgets are restored, as monies are made available, I would strongly advocate that HBCU make sure that we are proportionately increasing, if we're increasing, and making sure that we look at those with a very, very delicate touch. They're important institutions, and they're historic institutions, as we say, but they're institutions that need to be supported, need to be nurtured, need to be developed. So I would be strong for it. I don't know that there are any particular legislative, any particular increases on budgets for them, but we could certainly take a look at that and make sure. I will assure you this, when we talk about restoration and we talk about increases, historic Black colleges and universities will definitely get their appropriate share. I promise you that.
Well, we appreciate that. I just pull out that item concerning Savannah State, but I'm sure Fort Valley and Albany falls in the same category. So
certainly,
they all need support. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and they all have unique projects and unique needs and unique, I guess, cultural and personality, so to speak, for each of the individual schools. And then there's also the impact of the schools as a whole. So we should make sure we support them in the appropriate way.
Absolutely. Hey, Roy, I know the senator has to go. There's one other question. I don't know whether he has time for that. I know he has to go. Senator Miller, can you take one other question? If not,
we'll take it.
Okay.
Absolutely, we'll take it.
Okay. Here's one. Do you have any influence on the University System of Georgia Board of Regents appointments? We need a representative at the table that represents Georgia HBCUs.
You know, the Board of Regents are appointed generally at the pleasure of the governor. I do make recommendations from time to time, make recommendations for the Board of Regents, and make recommendations for other boards, and whether it might be the technical college or it might be the doctors or the dentist or what have you. And I would want to make sure I knew who I was recommending, but I would be happy to work with Calvin and Lester and Patty to make sure that we have proper representation, whether it's someone I knew personally or someone that I got to know through one of them. So to answer that question, I would be more than willing to advocate.
Okay, one last question that's here, and that is.
Wait a minute, hold on. You told me it was one last question a moment ago.
Hey, one more for the road. How about that?
All right. We're
Look for
gonna,
the road.
One for the
we're
road.
definitely
This
gonna
is
make that-
absolutely the last one, Ken.
All
Yeah,
right.
definitely.
How is the appropriate share determined? I guess that's between the schools in the university system, Georgia.
Well, I would say that the appropriate share with me, if the restoration went back 12%, then HBCU should go back 12%. That's what I was referring to as the appropriate share, making sure that when restoration projects are implemented, that we make sure that historic Black colleges, university get the same amount, equal amount, nothing short, maybe even more, depending on what the project is, and the level of need for each school and the schools as a whole.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We appreciate you taking the time to answer the questions and staying with us a little bit longer than you intended to.
Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate it, and I wouldn't cut out at all, but I don't get to have dinner with my wife very often. Tonight I'm going.
Thank you, Senator Miller, and we do appreciate you coming, and there'll be a more formal thank you following this session. Thank you so much here.
I look forward to it. Thanks so much.
Mr.
Thank
Pro
you.
Tem, we all
Guys.
appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate y'all. Take care.
Take care.
Let me call in State Representative Patty Bentley at this time. I don't want to abuse her schedule either. So if Patty will come on now, we will hear from her. Ken?
I don't
Yeah.
see Patty Bentley's not back on. She's not back on.
She's
She
not
dropped
back
off.
on. Okay.
She may come back into the room, but as of right now, I don't see her in the list.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I made her a panelist. Man, she must have left.
Yeah, she must, like I said, she must have left because I don't see her back in the list.
All right. All right. We'll push forward. And when she comes back, we'll make sure we try to tune her in.
We'll let you know if she returns.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good. Let me go to, and this is a toss up here, which one of these guys I pick, but I'm going to do it by seniority. And Calvin has been around a number of years, and more years than certainly than Lester and most everyone else as well. So Lester, if you don't mind, I know he's a representative and you're a senator, and you think the House is more important, so I'll go with that. But if you don't mind this time, let me go with Calvin, because he is the dean. He's been there longer, and hear from him at this time. Calvin, are you there?
I'm here. I was trying to see where we could get the screen. I'm looking at myself, and I rather see the. Thank you. Now I'm on a panel now.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's much better. I mean, I'm screensaver. I said,
Oh, you like the full screen, Calvin.
yeah, I like to know. I like to talking to people, not to an iPad.
Okay. Well, you
Well,
are.
thank y'all very, very much. And I tell you, I'm delighted. And we talked to Greg today, and Patty had a major conflict, and that's why she was on, and she might get back, but she was a push against the clock. And I'm just happy to see my friend Senator Lester Jackson. I just left his office maybe a couple of hours ago, going over some things, and I know he's going to talk about some of the issues that I came to visit with him about regarding HBCUs and some of the announcements that were made here earlier this week. And I'm just happy to see all of you all. I'm a charter member of GAAHBSU. I remember going to the first meeting years ago, and I thank you all and all of those that are leadership of GAAHBSU and all those that are on the call. And I have to do a point of personal privilege. I have to say hello to my president, Dr. Paul Jones. I don't know if he's on the call or not, and the head of our Alumni Association, Dr. Ed Boston, and our past president, Dorothy Moss. And I thank them for their leadership, and I thank them for all that they do to carry on. And I want to say hello to the president Albany State, Marion Frederick, and Savannah State, Kimberly Ballard, Washington. So again, it's a pleasure to be with you all, and thank you for this invitation. And I tell you, from a budgetary standpoint, we passed the amended budget to the Senate a few days ago, and I've had an opportunity to go through the big book that we call it FY 21 and 22, and I went to, of course, I'm on the Higher Ed Subcommittee of Appropriations, and I'm on the Higher Ed Committee of the House as well. And but the budget, I know a question was asked of the President Pro Tem of the Senate, Butch Miller. But in my memory, this is the first time I can recall our budgetary package and our amended budget was $208 million. And in the main budget for higher ed is for the University System of Georgia, $208 million in capital bonds and small capital projects. And in my memory, I can't ever recall Fort Valley, Albany State, and Savannah State, and Atlanta Metropolitan College being in the recommendations from the Board of Regents to the members of the General Assembly. It's either one of the other that's there, but I can't recall all three of the HBCUs and the Atlanta Metropolitan College being in the budget at the same time. And Fort Valley is in the budget for a academic renovation and campus infrastructure project, and it's $12.2 million to construct and design that project. Atlanta Metropolitan College is in there for some energy efficiency programs, and it's around $3.2 million. And then Savannah State is in there for equipment and HVAC and access control infrastructure there at university. And it's in for 2.75, but the actual project is $4,050,000. And then Albany State is in the budget for $7.6 million for construction of a nursing and health science simulation lab facility there on Albany State University, which totals about $27 million of the $208 million bond package that's been presented to us by the Board of Regents. Of course, that's the recommendation from the governor, and that the Board of Regents made the recommendation. They made their recommendation, and what we're looking at now is a recommendation of what the governor sent. And people don't understand that our budget is about $28 billion, but our request is about $42 billion. So you can see there's no way to juggle that, and so with that in mind, the governor cut some of them, and that's the one that Roy Jackson had mentioned, and someone had asked that question, and of course we're going to try to put that back in between the House and the Senate in our conference committee report when we get to the FY 21-22 budget. So that's where we are on from a budgetary standpoint, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And I'm excited about some of the issues that the governor are recommending, and they come on the heel of some of the things that Senator Jackson has been working on over the years, and I'm sure he's going to enlighten you all with that. So Greg and Roy, that's the few minutes that you all gave us, and that's where we are on that. And we're working hard to try to get as much money as we can and funding. And then on the other issue, one last thing I will mention, we've talked about HBCU African American getting on the board. Now, to get on the board of the Board of Regents we call political participation. Right. It's not the United Way. It's called political participation. And being on the Board of Regents, not being on the board of the United Way. It's being on the board of a political active group, and in order to do that, we got to get more political active. in our own individual ways. And I'm just going to be happy one day when I see someone from HBCU sitting on that. We have Sarah Langford Reed on there now, and we work very, very closely with her. And of course, we're in a search now. I spoke to the governor's chief of staff today about the search in there, and they're actually doing a national search. And I asked them, was it going to be a national search or was it going to be a May-like search? You know, May-like they're doing it, then somebody, you know, down the street get the call to come and be the chancellor. But they told me they're going to have a full-scale search on the new chancellor, and I salute Steve Wrigley. He's done an outstanding job, and I worked with him over the years. So thank y'all for letting me be with you.
Okay, Sarah, thank you. We appreciate that. You're going to hang around a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to Lester. I'm gonna try to learn something.
Okay, good. Very much. We appreciate it.
You know,
All right,
Senate,
thank you.
I'm in the House of the Commoners. He's in the House of the Lord. You know, so
We do have one question.
I know that's the way you feel. Ken,
Yeah.
let's hold the questions until Lester mixes.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
And of course, we can address the question to both of them.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we're here from State Representative Lester Jackson, my friend, and representative from Savannah-Chatham County.
Well, greetings all. I want to tell you it's indeed a pleasure to be with you this evening. I thank you for this opportunity to talk about not only HBCUs, about where we are, but where we should be headed. And I'm honored to be a part. When I first talked about this, someone asked me the question, what kind of support can we expect from you as it relates to HBCUs? And I had to tell them that you really don't know me, because if had you known me, you would know that my mom is a graduate of Albany State University. My dad is a graduate of Savannah State University. And my best friend and my roommate for a part-time and when I was in dental school is a graduate of Fort Valley, Dr. Lawrence Marable. I know the dentist in Macon, Georgia. So even before I joined the General Assembly, even before we talked about HBCUs, it was in my house. It was amongst my friends. And I too am a graduate of an HBCU in the state of Georgia. So I have a deep love and a deep commitment for HBCUs and its importance. So while in the General Assembly, working with my good friend, Calvin Smyre, for a long time, a man I immensely respect and have gained a lot of knowledge from, he has been a leader. And my friend Patty Bentley, who has been a great motivator, a great mover, a great believer in HBCUs and the commitment of HBCUs, I commend her. But also, I think asking Butch Miller to come on and participate, because not only that we need people to talk to GAAHBSU that have a commitment and a love for HBCUs, but we need new friends. So that's why I talked to Greg about maybe inviting the pro tem to be a part of this and invite the lieutenant governor to be a part of this, because although we are strong and we have a love, we need new friends. And Butch Miller is one of those type of people who are committed to be a friend, not only to HBCUs, but for disenfranchised people. And so we need not talk. Calvin gave a great overview of where we are with our budget. Pro Tem Butch Miller did a great interview, told a great story about the percentage of Black lawyers graduated from HBCUs, the percentage of Black judges, physicians, engineers, and the that are graduates of HBCUs, and that commitment. But we still have a lot to do. So I'm just here to tell you that I'm committed to move historically Black colleges in a positive direction. But Calvin can't do it by itself. Patty Bentley can't do it by herself. I can't do it by myself. So we need to work as a team to not only to talk about HBCUs, but to make sure that we get our necessary resources to HBCUs. So with that said, yesterday, the governor rolled out his educational bill. And there's something I've been working with the governor's office for quite some time. And I was happy to be the second signer on the governor's education bill. And when you read that education bill, it talks about retired teachers, giving them the opportunity to come back and work in the classroom without any retribution from any hit from their retirement. It talked about giving military people the opportunity to work in the classroom teaching. But what I respect the governor about, he included my idea about putting more funding into historically Black colleges and universities for us to produce more teachers for this workforce. And if we do nothing else, a commitment from the governor to put in the budget, to have a commitment for HBCUs to put more teachers in the workforce, not only helps HBCUs, it helps our entire state. This is something that Calvin and I have often talked about as the purpose of HBCUs, not only to Black folks, but for this entire state. So Black HBCUs need a purpose, and we're going to find that purpose. But I also think that we have some issues that we need to talk about, because when I look at Georgia HBCUs, I noticed that we're one of the few states with historical Black colleges that don't have a terminal degree program. When you go to Florida, you have HBCUs that have pharmacy programs and a law school. South Carolina has an engineering program. Southern University in Louisiana has a law school, and there's a couple of universities in Texas that have law schools and engineering programs. I want an HBCU school in the state of Georgia with a terminal degree. That way we can attract more students, and we can be more we can be sustainable more as we move into the 21st century. I just want to be a part of the solution. I've introduced a lot of HBCU bills. Some you think are really good. Some make you question about where I'm coming from. But I'm here to tell you that I have a deep love, and I think with our help working collectively, we're going to do best to move our HBCUs into the 21st century. Now I'm going to pause right now, and I'm ready for question and answer to hear from Calvin.
Okay, we'll start the questions unless Calvin want to come back.
Yeah, I just want to mention something about Lester. He and I talked about it today, and that's the teacher placement. And I know he worked on this in the past, and it was included in the governor's press conference. And so I'm gonna toot the horn for him. But the governor's gonna put more emphasis on the Professional Standards Commission and directing the HBCUs to work with the Professional Standards Commission, to work with the HBCUs to create more teacher replacement, and to find ways that we can ensure more minority teachers in our classroom. And that's something that he's been working on and has worked on in the past. Excuse me, in the past. And I wanted to bring that out.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Ken, I'm sure there are some questions in, but I'll start the first one. I know both of you are very familiar with, the Hope Scholarship. And my question is there a chance of getting it back to a needs-based versus the merit-based scholarship? You think there's a chance that we can go back to that?
Well, Roy, we talk about that all the time, and every time we look for new funding, whether it's destination resorts or other words casinos, we always talk there must be a piece in it for need-based scholarships. When we talk about cannabis or expanding marijuana in the state of Georgia, Calvin Smyre, Patty Bentley, many others always talk about there must be in that bill money set aside for needs-based scholarship. So we often talk about it, and I'm gonna tell you right now, and you should thank the entire Black Caucus. We would be where we are if we didn't draw the line, because we drew the line when it came to casinos and said there would not be a casino bill without need-based scholarship. So we are toting the line and trying to do our best to put need-based scholarships back on the forefront. Now, will it ever be a part of the Hope Scholarship? I think in time it will, but that's a very difficult task because the Hope Scholarship, in my opinion, has been losing money over the time. Wouldn't you agree, Calvin?
Yes,
Go ahead.
Yeah. If a casino bill passes destination resorts, if one passes, it'll have need-based in it. Just stop right there.
If there's a
Don't go no
marijuana
further.
bill passed, it's
If
going to have
if they have a bill and if a bill passed, if they want a bill passed, they're going to have need-based in. Now, if they don't want to pass, put need-based in, and they won't get a bill. Just write that down and put it in Stone Mountain.
Okay. All right.
Okay. The first question is for any of the panelists. In regard to the new Georgia gaming legislation discussions, will it include permanent supplemental funding for Georgia HBCUs on an annual basis? If not, who would take the lead in making this happen?
I don't know. I don't understand when you say I'm not sure. I get the question. Say it again.
Yeah, let me reread it. Let me read it again. In regard to the new Georgia gaming legislation discussions, will it include permanent supplemental funding for Georgia HBCUs on an annual basis? If not, who will take the lead in making this happen?
It's just no way for us to do that structurally because the Board of Regents is a constitutional body, and that's what constitutionally we can't do anything outside of the auspices of the Board of Regents. It's a constitutional mandated, but what we can do is as Senator Jackson said, we can say that the funds that are derived thereof could be used for need-based, which is a part of the Georgia Lottery Corporation and the Georgia State Finance Commission, where the Hope Scholarship is resided. But it's no way for us to do an appropriation to the HBCUs because they come under the auspices of the Board of Regents, which is a constitutional mandated body.
What most people don't understand is that the General Assembly, when we appropriate funds, we give those funds to the Board of Regents.
Yeah. And
then the Board of Regents divide those funds up between their colleges. The General Assembly, other than for buildings and buildings and structures stuff, we don't have any direct means to give funds directly to institutions. That's the job of the Board of Regents. Now we fund projects, but it's the Board of Regents' job is to make recommendations and do the daily operations for every school.
And emphasize what Senator Jackson is saying. We give them if they say it's $3 billion, we give them $3 billion. That's the bottom line. They decide how to spend that $3 billion. We don't have any say so on it, other than the capital projects in general fund. But when you start talking about instructionals, and because they have a lot of formulas they use, as the presidents will tell you, that there's a lot of formulas within the university system in Georgia, but they have control over the line items that make up their budget. We have no control of that.
Okay. The next question is, if I heard you correctly, I'm curious why there isn't money being allocated for program development at SSU as it is being allocated for Fort Valley State and Albany State University's academic programs. I guess this is, go ahead.
I believe that's a function of the Board of Regents to allocate funds that way. The General Assembly, the job of me, Calvin Smyre, and the other 226 legislators, our job is to appropriate higher education funds to the Board of Regents. And then the Board of Regents decide in their infinite knowledge how to disperse those funds based on need of the number of students or the number of programs for the schools. After we appropriate money to the Board of Regents, we have little or no control of how that money is dispersed.
Lester and Calvin, and you're exactly right. And I guess sometimes during our sessions, that's something that the leadership of GAAHBSU can really educate our alumni on the processes, okay? You understand that, but a lot of our people may be new. They don't understand the process, but those are the kinds of things that we as leadership in GAAHBSU can educate our alumni base on the process of funding, what the Board of Regents' responsibility is. So that's something that we can do probably at our conference next year, is educating our alumni based on things like that. Most of the old heads and the people who've been around for a long time, they know the process. They know the funding process. They know how money gets allocated to the Board of Regents and how the Board of Regents distributes that funds between all of its units within the university system. Let me ask this, Lester and Calvin. We all know that the Chancellor is going to be retiring, I believe, in June or July, Steve Wrigley. As far as I'm concerned, Steve Wrigley has been a friend to HBCUs in Georgia, okay? I've sat down with him on a number of occasions, and I personally think that he's a friend to HBCUs. Now, I guess my question is this. Do you have any inside track on who the governor may be leaning toward in appointing to the chancellorship? And if so, do you think that person has any leanings toward our HBCUs? Because we certainly want to have as much input as we possibly can. We know it's his appointment. We don't have any qualms about that. But if you have any inklings as to how he's leaning and who he's leaning toward appointing to that position, we certainly would like to try to have whatever input or influence we might be able to have as a collective body on that appointment.
No, the committee has been appointed. Kessel Stellings, the chairman of Synovus, the company I'm retired from, is the chair of the search committee. He would be someone that if I were you all and as leaders of GAAHBSU, I would direct any kind of concerns you would have to him and to that committee. Sarah Langford Reed is on it. She's African American. She's on the search committee, and I would say she would be a person to reach out to. And they haven't gotten to the point where, you know, they start interviewing. I think the RFP is out. The request for candidates is out. I don't even know if they've hired a search firm yet, but they just got appointed recently. And I think they're looking for appointing someone in July. So there's not a quote unquote, you know, list of people that we can talk to you about, because they just started it. But I would suggest to you all as the leaders of GAAHBSU that you would reach out to Sarah Langford Reed and Kessel Stellings, who is chair of the search committee, and have some dialogue with them. I think that would be appropriate.
Thank you.
Greg, did you listen? Did you listen to the dean? Did you listen to him?
I listened. I heard him.
He said the chairman of Synovus, Stellings, is the chairman of the search committee. All right. And if you also know anything about Calvin, he's retired now, but the dean of the General Assembly was vice president of Synovus Bank. So I believe there is a relationship there. So if anyone would know how it's going to go or have any influence that is African American, it would be our friend Calvin Smyre. So I would lean on Calvin to use all his influences to find out what's going on, because
thank you, Lester.
Those bank boys, they talk, they talk, they have them, they break bread all the time. But I would encourage you to, if GAAHBSU would come up with a name, a recommendation, I think that the chairman and all the board members might be receptive to a letter and your recommendation. And at the end of the day, it wouldn't hurt if GAAHBSU recommend somebody when it got down to the final five. But I would lean on a man from Columbus, Georgia, who has worked with Synovus Bank, who has kinship with the chairman of Synovus Bank, who's also the president of the search committee. If I was listening correctly. Was I listening correctly, Calvin?
Well, Lester, I thank you for that, but
What's the next question?
I read that in his bio. I just didn't want to pull that out, but I certainly read that relationship in there. So it stood out to me, but so we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Duly noted, Lester.
Okay, I read that too. I want another job catcher too.
All right. The next question is, what is in the current budget, and what is in the current budget to help build up the education departments in our state HBCUs?
I think, please don't take this the wrong way, but I think there needs to be a session on the operation. I think Greg just alluded to that. We have no, when it comes to the university system in Georgia, we give them, they give us a bottom line number, and we have no, when it comes to curriculum, when it comes to instructional expenses, when it comes to nothing, the university system, the presidents and all of that in the central office, they determine, you know, when Dr. Jones, President Frederick, or President Ballard Washington, when they submit their budgets to the Board of Regents, that's all the confinements of the legislature. We have no, we have none, neither. We have no authority. The Board of Regents is the only agency that is constitutionally mandated, and therefore the General Assembly, the only influence we have with the Board of Regents is in capital outlay and capital funds, because we control the bonding process in the state of Georgia. But when it comes to instructional money and anything that's a line item in the Board of Regents, that comes through the presidents of the university system, schools, and the central office of the Board of Regents. And I think y'all can have a discussion with the three presidents, and they can drill a little bit more on that, because all of them have master plans and 5 to 10 year out master plans, and they can talk with you about the missions and the objectives and that sort of thing. And I think you'll get a better explanation than I'm giving you. But the bottom line is we have no input on funding in that apparatus.
And Calvin, the three presidents are going to be on tomorrow night, so that's something that we might want to address to them. But you're exactly right.
I'd like to listen in on that. What time is that?
It's going to be at 7 o'clock, and you're certainly welcome. We'll grant you access.
Thank you.
Right. Let me and ask a little bit different question from what's coming up. Calvin and Lester, do you foresee any excess funds coming into the state from any particular source beyond what already identified? Is there any possibility of an extra pot somewhere down the line? And if so, you obviously know that we want to be upfront in terms of trying to tap into it, but is that a possibility?
I don't see any extra funds coming into the state in the immediate future. You know, we're going to a COVID crisis. It's costing millions or billions of dollars going through this pandemic. Businesses are closing. People needing relief. People are losing jobs. Unemployment is still not exceptionally high, but there is still unemployment is higher than the normal in our state. But coming down the line, as we go into this medical marijuana, there will be an excess of state funds coming in from medical marijuana. I think Georgia will be on the verge, like most states. They pass medical marijuana legislation, and then Soon after that, they go into legalizing marijuana. In the very near future, I think we're going to see an excess of funds, new funds coming in through cannabis, whether it's just medical cannabis, which probably is I understand it may be $1 billion in the industry of state revenue. And if we get into full-blown recreational marijuana, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. We see that in California, we see that in Colorado and other states. But the short answer is, down the road, I believe medical marijuana, we're going to see an upsurge of state revenue coming from that source.
What about the president's COVID recovery bill that's pending? If that is passed, are there any possibilities in that?
Well, we will get some. Go ahead, Calvin. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, that COVID relief bill pending. I think it's in Washington, D.C. now. When we send our request up in Georgia, it has to be certified by the feds. And after the election, the former president withheld all money going back to states. But now under the new administration, I think that we can get the go-ahead for some of that COVID relief money to trickle its way down to Georgia and to the other states. Am I right about that, Calvin?
Yeah, the COVID relief bill now, the 1.9 trillion. I don't know if it'll be that amount, but if we get that money, there's some state aid money in there. And see, we had to take about $1 billion from our rainy day fund to satisfy the cuts that we made last legislative session. And we're trying to restore those money back to education because our economists, and with an uptick in revenues, we're able to put some money back in the budget. And but there are no other resources such. You could pass a cigarette tax, get 130 million. Senator Jackson has alluded to the. I was one of the co-sponsors of the medical cannabis bill. It's not a major revenue source, but Fort Valley is one of the institutions. Fort Valley University, Georgia, two of the institutions that will get licensed in that respect. But the real money is in recreational marijuana. And if you were to get that, then that would be a windfall for the state of Georgia if recreational marijuana were ever to be. In every state that has had cannabis, recreational marijuana was 5 to 7 years behind it. So our biggest hope is with President Biden and the House and Senate to pass a major COVID bill. And if that 1 trillion 900 billion, if that's passed, then you're going to see some major funding for because right now the money that we got from the CARES Act, a large portion of that went to the university system of Georgia. I know that the HBCUs got a large portion of that. I think it was somewhere near 30 some million dollars that went directly to the HBCUs of the 124 million, I think, thereby that the university system of Georgia received. So we've been advocating through the National Governors Conference, National Governors Association, the National Conference of State Legislators, and other agencies. We've been advocating funding for. We had requested several $1 billion to get us back into the line of fulfilling our deficit in terms of our rainy day fund, and then providing money for our regular budgetary consideration. So that if that 1 point, I don't think it'll be 1.9 billion, but because the President Biden did 1.9 and the Republicans responded back with 600 billion, and so between 600 billion and 1 trillion 900 billion, you're gonna meet up somewhere. But I hope I'm as close as. If we got to go alone, I'm telling if the President Biden called me, I'm gonna say go alone.
Absolutely.
Yeah. While you got the hog, you better cut him and eat him.
Sure.
You got a hog forever.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on the chat line?
Yes, we do. We have 4 more.
Hey, Ken.
6 more, actually. Yes.
Ken, this is Greg. Listen, We got the Lieutenant Governor coming on. If he's not already on, we got time for one more question, and then we're gonna end this session. So go ahead and ask one more question, and then we're gonna go ahead and prepare for the Lieutenant Governor if he's not already on.
Okay.
I want to make a correction. I just got something from Al Fleming down in Albany State in the chat room, and when he says that he's right on that economic relief package passed in December. The major portion of that 900 billion was dedicated to HBCUs. He's correct on that.
Okay, here's one. It appears HBCU's representation on the Georgia Board of Regents is critical to ensure HBCUs get a fair and appropriate share of funding and academic programs. Representative Smyre informed us of the political nature and difficulty in getting HBCU friends on this board. Strategically, shouldn't GAAHBSU be more focused on getting representation?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
When you look at the Board of Regents, they're full of not just a lot of white men, but all of them, if you look at their resume, they all are like graduates of Georgia and Georgia Tech. All right. And when we look at a board and they all graduates, when 80% of them are graduates of two schools, you can imagine where the money's going to go without question. And it's not only important that we have somebody, an African American on the board. We need a person on the board that is a graduate from the HBCU in the state of Georgia, one of our state colleges. So because they not only have the love and the commitment, they have an understanding of the needs of Savannah State or Fort Valley or Albany State College. So when we advocate for an African American, we must be a little bit more specific in saying that we would like that new member that's of African American to be from one of the historical Black colleges, from one of our state universities. I'm gonna turn it over to Calvin.
Well, that's a lot of dialogue. If you go and look at the regions too, I mean, they are appointed by the governor, and of course, you know, you got to look at it from that perspective. And we, you know, that takes a lot of collaboration, because I know, I'm a graduate of HBCU and I'm in a part of GAAHBSU. I know we're gonna have a dialogue with what school they're gonna come from.
Yeah,
I want to put that on the table. So it's gotta bubble up, and we gotta this something of this nature is really comprehensive. Something you'd have to really sit down and really drill on it and talk about it. And I suggest we have that kind of discussion, because I would like to see a African American, Black on the board of regents from one of our universities. I think that is, and because they can talk about the nuances and what's there. So I think this is something we ought to thrive, and Roy and Greg and all your leadership. I think that's something we ought to maybe have a discussion on and try to see how we can make that come to fruition.
Kevin, I think it's so right, because I mean, as we talk about it, we have an African American on, and we've had African Americans on the Board of Regents. But you're right in saying that I think the key is having the right person on the Board of Regents.
Connie, what, in his Savannah State graduate, was he?
Yes.
Connie Cater of Savannah State. Yeah.
Roy.
So Connie was on there. That we've had one on there from Savannah State. So I mean, and
Roy?
Lieutenant.
Yes, I'm here.
I would like to introduce the Lieutenant Governor. The Lieutenant Governor is now in. I would like to welcome him aboard a part of this conference.
Hey, Senator Jackson, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Governor. Good to have you here with us.
Yeah, I wish I could join on video. I'm just coming out of a TV studio and kind of transitioning around in and out of cars. So I think the best way to do this is just audio for now. But,
the governor, oh, come, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. Calvin, I think I'm going to get to see you tomorrow.
I'm seeing you in the morning.
I know. I just looked on my calendar. I had to set my alarm 30 minutes early to come meet up with you. And you know what? It is worth every minute.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and we're coming to talk to you about John Lewis, and that's a great thing.
Well, that's awesome. Well, always look forward to my conversations with you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on the call for
Hey,
sure.
Governor,
Yes, sir.
This is Greg Howlick. I'm the executive chairman of GAAHBSU, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for your participation tonight. I know you have a busy schedule, but we thank you for taking time out to come and be with us. I don't know how familiar you are with our organization, but we've been around for almost 40 years, and it's the alumni associations of the 3 HBCU here in Georgia: Albany State, Savannah State, and Fort Valley State. And our major purpose and our focus is to advocate for these 3 universities. So we've been doing this now for about 40 years, and that's our major purpose, and that's our major focus. So we certainly are glad that you are here with us. One of the things that we want to hear from you tonight is how familiar you are with these organizations, with these 3 institutions, and what do you see as their role and significance here in the state of Georgia. So if you can kind of just share your thoughts with us on the role that you see these universities playing here within the state and the significance of these 3 HBCUs here in the state of Georgia, not only the state of Georgia, but this nation. So we'll allow you to elaborate on that at this time, Governor.
Yeah, well, thanks for the opportunity. And, look, I want to thank my colleagues, the folks I've got to serve with down at the Capitol that are on this call, that have really, truly been great friends, and just been neat to kind of climb into some foxholes together and climb out of them, hold hands together too. It's been awesome to build relationships along the way. And here's where hopefully everybody here has heard me talk about Georgia becoming the technology capital of the East Coast, right? And that's my big economic issue, right? And it's not just economics, it's education, it's track record, it's access to opportunity. And for me, that's the biggest opportunity I think I've got to really try to weave into, the 3 that you mentioned: Albany State, Fort Valley, and Savannah State. Obviously, that's the group that y'all recognize. But becoming the technology capital of the East Coast, it could just be a good marketing slogan, right? I could get by with it. Just, every room I walked into, I said it. But if I want to earn the title, then we got to invest in people. We got to invest in people all over the state, in every corner, in every community, in every stage of life. Because to become a technology capital of the East Coast, then that means we got to have a flow of talent that's not just ready on the first day they start working. We got to start cultivating that in the communities, in K through 12 education, technical school opportunities, 4-year school opportunities, workforce development programs that help people transition. And to me, partnering with the 3 groups there, along with so many others across the state, and helping all of us prepare for this 21st century global economy, making sure that there's no skill gaps based on your zip code, making sure there's no skill gaps based on where you get your diploma from, making sure there's no drop off in resources or equipment is huge. There's got to be a consistent platform across the state. And to do that, it just has to take people buying into it. And I think the important thing to recognize is no matter who you're graduating from your universities, it doesn't matter teacher, it doesn't matter technician, nurse, doctor, entrepreneur, engineer, it just doesn't matter. Every single job is a technology job these days. If you can't use technology skills, you can't work in and around a computer or data, then you're going to be left behind, or you're not going to be able to achieve full potential. And so for me, building that relationship, looking for opportunities to continue to partner with your schools and with broader communities to really execute this dream, to me, is only going to help make this easier. It's going to help attracting companies from all over the world, all over the country that want to come here, right? I know that there's already great relationships. One of the things I did was really try to dig into the groups that have private sector companies, IBM, Southern Company, Bank of America, companies that have really just invested. Those are great role models, but we need more. We need more that understand and create a relationship and a pipeline so that we can have continuous flow of talent be cultivated, educated, and then delivered out to the private sector so they can go get their dreams. So that's a long-winded answer. But what I do want to tell you is I think a really neat opportunity is a group that we were able to form Certainly there's been some great folks that have joined it with us. It's called PI2, Partnership for Inclusive Innovation. And the word inclusive, and this group, I'm preaching to the choir here, understands that the word inclusive has about 1,000 different meanings about every single day of the week, every single day of the year. And for me, inclusive is it's all encompassing. And so we've built a team of people that are out there trying to look for opportunities to invest private-public partnership money into startup ideas to be able to get them up to a scalable size to solve some of the problems here in Georgia. Digital readiness, agriculture technology, K through 12 readiness, rural broadband, you name the issue, we're going to continue to grow. And so I want to extend an opportunity for y'all to continue to play a part in that PI2 system. One of those great guys, and just an awesome friend. I'm sure everybody on this call knows who Paul Judge is. Paul Judge is on the team with us on PI2. He's been with us since day one, and I've worked with him in the private sector. I'm not certain where he graduated from school at, but I know that he's an amazing individual. It might have been Georgia Tech, which is where I went to school. But look, we've got great opportunities in front of us, and I'll wrap up and be quiet here in a second, but I love talking about this. I want every single Georgian, and I mean every single Georgian, to wake up every morning, whether they're a kid thinking about their future, an elderly person thinking about their retirement, or somebody like me that's right in the middle of life. I want them to wake up and be as excited to live in Georgia as I am. I want them to feel like they have as much opportunity to succeed as I do, or you do, or anybody else that's next door to you. That's where I want to get us. And we've got work to do, but I think we can do it together.
Okay, Lieutenant Governor, we appreciate that. And again, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to participate with us this evening. Just want to advance a question on the presentation, particularly on the technology piece. What I want to interject into that is to remind you that what needs to be on the forefront is that equity in the push and equity in what comes together to carry the technology idea forward. Many times once an idea becomes fruition, there's some folks, and in this case, some institutions kind of get left behind. And with an idea like this, we certainly would not want that to happen to our HBCUs. So we need to keep in the forefront of our minds equity in terms of what happens in that area.
Yeah, no, look, and you couldn't be any more spot on, making sure, because that was such a fundamental word for us, partnership for inclusive innovation, because that's who we are in this state. That's who I want to be known for as in this state. I want companies to come here because they know they can get the best of all of us. They can participate in who we are in our communities. They can participate in who we are in our economy. They can participate in who we are in our education system as we kind of move forward in this big idea. And if you look through the perspective of rural Georgia, right? Because sometimes when I first came out with this notion of becoming the technology capital of the East Coast, I'd go to some of these rural communities and they'd be like, technology capital of the East Coast, we're a farming town. Well, that's great, but technology is going to help you deliver ag tech in a way that's going to help them grow their business globally. But also, to me, some of these struggling rural communities that don't have the same opportunities that maybe as suburban areas have, technology might be the greatest lifeline to some of these kids graduating. Not a lifeline to necessarily get up and leave the community, and maybe that happens, but it's a lifeline to be able to build a community there, to be able to stay there and operate in this 21st century system, whether they go to Georgia Tech or technical school or Fort Valley State or you name the institution. It gives them an opportunity to really hone their technology skills, to be a data scientist, to be a computer programmer, to be a software engineer, to be a software salesperson, to be a CEO, to be a sales manager, you name it. Technology is here to stay. And I think it's a lifeline to those that probably need it the most.
Well, quite frankly, I'm personally excited about the idea, and couldn't be more thrilled that you brought it up. I just want to make sure that we can be a part of it as it progresses. And certainly we look forward to that. So we just want. Any other question to the Lieutenant Governor?
Well, there is a question that could probably fit. That is, how can we get behind John Ossoff and Reverend Warnock in pushing for more federal funds to come to Georgia HBCUs?
Yeah, so I've not talked to Reverend Warnock yet. I did have a conversation last week with Senator Ossoff, and it was a really good conversation. We talked a lot about that very question about, hey, look, let's form a relationship here. Obviously, we're in separate parties. We probably didn't vote for each other, but we're going to work together. And he talked a lot about, look, let's make sure we understand what our military needs are, what our educational needs are, what our federal programs are. We're both very passionate about healthcare. I think there's an opportunity to build some relationships. I look forward to in the next days or a couple of weeks, whenever everyone's schedule kind of slows down, to catch up and have that same conversation with Senator Warnock also. Okay.
Well, keep us on your list. We would certainly like to hear from you and be able to participate where we can on this item.
Well, and keep me on your list when you got questions or you got heartburn or anything in between. Lester knows where to find me. And certainly track us down and let us know. Don't make a stranger of yourselves. Come see us in the office at the appropriate time. Obviously, we're all dealing with COVID and trying to limit exposure, but certainly y'all are as important to our story of trying to be the tech capital of the East Coast as any group out there.
Okay, thank you very much, and I want to thank Senator Jackson for intervening and of course getting you to put us on your schedule and come in tonight and share with us.
Well, not a problem. Thank you guys so much. And I'm gonna jump off the call here and get in bed early so I can go meet with Calvin early in the morning.
Governor, I appreciate you, sir. It's been great working with you, and I'm sure we're gonna have a lot more to work together in the future. Not only with this subject, but some other subjects as it relates to our entire state. So thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for setting it up. See you on the Senate floor tomorrow.
Thank you, Governor.
Yes, sir.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Before we tune out, let me thank Senator Jackson for assisting in helping to set up this session here. We asked him to make contact with a number of the participants for us, and he was gracious enough to do that, and certainly has brought the participation for us. So we just thank you very much. And certainly it's always a pleasure to have the Dean on. Calvin Smyre, and we look forward to seeing all of you guys in person once the COVID is over and we get back to Atlanta in person. Patty hasn't returned yet, has she?
No, she has not returned into the session.
Okay, Greg, I will turn it back over to you, and we can go further, or we can close out. It's whatever your choice is. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy, and great job facilitating this portion of the workshop. I hope Representative Bentley is not upset with us not being able to get her on, but if she is, I'll personally apologize to her for that, because we know that she had a prior engagement and perhaps she could not stay until Senator Miller had finished, but I will personally reach out to Patty to make sure that she's not upset with us in any way. Again, I want to thank Senator Jackson, not only for his participation, but for reaching out to the Senator Pro Tem and also the Lieutenant Governor. And also thanks to the Dean of the House, Calvin Smyre. He's always been a friend to us, and he will continue, I'm sure, in that vein. One of the things that kept coming up in the session with the legislators and the Lieutenant Governor was the funding process. Now, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but as I said, there may be some people who are newcomers to GAAHBSU. There may be some folk who are not familiar with the funding process. And that's why I jumped in and said, maybe next year, if we can start back meeting in person, we need to have a session on the funding process, because from some of the questions that I heard, it's apparent to me that some of us are not familiar with the funding process, and that's okay. That's okay. That's why we are here, to educate the people in those processes. But bottom line is this: the Georgia Appropriations Committee, they appropriate money to all of the departments, whether it's to the Board of Regents, whether it's the Transportation Department. They appropriate a pot of money to the various departments. In our particular case, in the educational arena, that committee appropriates a certain amount of money to the Board of Regents. And the Board of Regents has the responsibility of distributing that pot of money between all of the units within the university system of Georgia. Now, granted, there are those who have lots of influence, have lots of political power, and sometimes they are able to carry the day in terms of how much is allocated to a particular university, whether that's Georgia Tech, whether that's the University of Georgia, or whether that's Albany State. But as you heard either Calvin say or Senator Jackson say, when you've got members on the Board of Regents who predominantly all the members have graduated from the University of Georgia or Georgia Tech, well, it stands to reason that the predominant amount of money in terms of capital projects and funding would probably go to those two flagship universities. Doesn't have to be that way, but common sense would tell you that typically that's probably the way, as Calvin say, the cow eats the corn. So what we probably will have next year, and I'll talk to the executive committee about that, is maybe to set up a session where we go through the funding process and we go through any other issues that relate to how money gets from the legislature to the different departments and down to the different units within the university system. The other thing I wanted to mention, somebody mentioned about having a seat at the table. And it's always important to have a seat at the table, no matter where you are or what you're talking about. This is an issue that we've talked to all down through the years. At one time, we were talking about what is the best way to get an individual who is an alum of one of our institutions on the Board of Regents. We talked about coming up with a profile of what it takes to get somebody looked at by the governor, because the governor appoints members to the Board of Regents. What would it take in terms of a profile to get that individual before the governor and before any committee that he might utilize to make recommendations to him for that particular appointment? Now, in the past, as someone has said, we've had some African Americans on the board, and we've only had one African American on the board that's a graduate of one of these three HBCUs. That was Savannah State, Connie Cater, and he was on for I don't know whether it was one term or two terms, but Connie was on for one term. We've had Eldridge McMillan on for a long time. Eldridge was on the board for a long time, and he was a friend of our three institutions. But I don't think Eldridge was a graduate of one of these. Matter of fact, I know he was not a graduate of one of those three institutions, but he was certainly a friend to these three institutions. We've had Juanita Barranco on there as a board member. However, she was not a graduate. Even though she was African-American, she was not a graduate of one of our HBCUs. And now I think we have the wife or the ex-wife. I don't want to speak out of school. I don't know whether they're still married, of the former mayor of Atlanta, Kasim Reed, Langford Reed. I think she's a member of the Board of Regents. But here again, we need somebody on the board who has an allegiance, who has loyalty, and who has passion for these three HBCUs. So we've got a lot of work to do to try and put people in a position where they can get the attention and the view of the governor, who has the responsibility of appointing these people to the Board of Regents. So all that's a roundabout way of saying that we've got a lot of work to do in terms of trying to put people in positions of influence and put people in positions of power, such that they can do a lot more in advancing the cause and the mission of our 3 HBCUs. So I just wanted to put that out there for what it's worth, and to let you know that's something that the leadership of GAAHBSU is going to also be looking at. One of the questions that I had sent to Lester for the governor to be, the lieutenant governor to be mindful of when he came, was the fact that we wanted to make sure that he has an opportunity to sit down with a delegation of GAAHBSU's leadership so that we can really bring him up to speed on what we are all about in terms of this organization. He didn't have time to go into a lot tonight, and I didn't want to press him because he was pressed for time, just like everybody else is. But what we want to do is we want a delegation of GAAHBSU's leadership to set up a meeting with the lieutenant governor so we can bring him up to speed and he can get spun up on what we're all about and what our focus and what our mission is. We did that last year with the governor. So what we want to do is do the same thing this year with the lieutenant governor. So I wanted to make sure that I made that clear in case that needed to be cleared up. And here again, I don't want to make this issue sound trivial or to mean anybody, but I thought that needed to be said. So that's one thing that we're going to try to do going forward, make sure that we have a session where we can just educate our people in that funding process.
Greg,
Hey, Greg, this is
Hey.
Ken. A couple of people have basically chimed in saying that they think, we shouldn't have to wait a year to do that. We should do something, pretty soon. We can just schedule a virtual training or something, like sort of like what we have now, I guess, and to introduce that topic at that time. So.
Okay, well, and I agree wholeheartedly with that. We can set something up like that. Don't have to wait till next year to do that. And that's a great point. That's one of the things that the executive committee will take under advisement, and we'll see if we can't set a session up where we can have that that workshop, if you will.
Greg.
So that's a very good point. We will schedule something, and we won't wait until next year, and we will give everybody enough lead time such that you can clear your schedule and participate in that workshop. That's a great point. Thanks, Ken.
Greg,
What was the other issue?
Greg.
Yeah.
Let me just interject a point on the point that you made on that. Because I agree with you, I think it's important, but what, in addition to what you said, I think what it will do is allow folks to understand why we do certain things the way we do it at GAAHBSU.
Right.
Once they're aware of how things, what the processes are in certain areas.
Absolutely, very good, excellent point. Were there other issues, Ken, in the chat line that we need to address tonight?
Basically, I think some of them were kind of like repeating what we've already talked about. Yeah, that was pretty much it.
Okay. Do we still have Senator Jackson and State Representative Smyre on the line?
I'm still on the line.
Lester, did you want to chime in on anything I've said as far as workshops and things like that?
Well, Greg, I'm gonna tell you like this, man, and you're absolutely right. This should, this GAAHBSU Day at the Capitol should not be a one weekend event. We should meet quarterly with legislators to discuss issues. I remember, that I had the opportunity to meet with the leadership team during the summer to talk about a plan for action as we proceed. I'm sure that that legislators would be happy to meet with GAAHBSU leadership or GAAHBSU members as we get stuff ready for the next year. As I said earlier, we need new friends. It's good as Black people, we get together and talk about what we need, but we need to bring in people from different parties, different cultures with different interests to tell them how useful and what the usefulness of HBCUs in the state of Georgia. The lieutenant governor knowledge of Black colleges is limited. So as we progress, bring his team in, so that when things come around, Savannah State, Fort Valley and Albany State is on his mind. I have a piece of legislation I'm going to introduce that's only for historically Black colleges, but I need the Lieutenant Governor to understand the significance of Black colleges and it's important so we can move forward. So yes, so the short answer is we need to meet more often, especially since it's all Zoom now. We could do it 6 times a year because no one has to move and spend any gas or get any hotel rooms.
That's a very good point, Lester. I don't know about 6 times, maybe quarterly might suffice, but certainly more than once a year. That's certainly in order. And here again, that's something else that GAAHBSU leadership, the executive committee, will take under advisement, and we will come out with a proposal that we think will be accommodating to all of our members, and we will certainly get that word out to all of our membership. Anything else in there, Ken?
Yeah, one other question here.
Okay.
And this is pertaining to a meeting with the governor. What did we accomplish by meeting with the governor, and what was the follow-up and strategic plan?
Well, I think that meeting with the governor consisted of me, I believe Roy, I believe Clyde. I'm not sure Lou Ann was in there, but what we talked about was additional funding for the 3 HBCUs. And one of the things that the governor said is he was more interested in the programs, teacher programs specifically. He mentioned that. Now, of course, he had done his homework. Of course, he's got a staff to do all the research that needs to be done in terms of these 3 universities. But he brought up one point about the producing teachers within the state of Georgia. And he said he were hurting, this state was hurting in the areas of K through 12 funding. And that's where his emphasis, he wanted to place his emphasis on K through 12 funding and the teachers that we are bringing out of these universities to go into the classroom in the K through 12 area. So that was his primary emphasis. And what we were telling him at that particular time was that Fort Valley at one point in time was known for its teacher education program. And at one point, I think it was lost, but I think they have finally gotten that back. But that was the emphasis, and that was the gist of that meeting with the governor. A question came up as to whether or not we were going to meet with the governor again this year. I made the decision that not to meet with the governor. I wanted to meet with the lieutenant governor. I think I know where the governor stands on a lot of issues, but didn't know where the lieutenant governor stood. So I certainly wanted to feel him out. So that was the reason that we decided to meet with the lieutenant governor as opposed to the governor. But at any rate, Senator Jackson has the ear of both the governor and the lieutenant governor. And if there's anything that we feel we need to have the governor or the lieutenant governor address, we always work through Lester, who has the ear of both the governor and the lieutenant governor.
Right. Let me add to the question, or add a point on the question. Since it asked about what was our strategy in terms of meeting with the governor, in that session we had with the governor, one of the things that he indicated that came out of it was the fact that he was impressed with the fact that there was a group out here that was meeting on behalf of our institutions and was very active in that regard. And of course was impressed with that. So if you ask what come out of it, I think that was significant because we made sure that these HBCUs are on his radar, and he aware of us now. I know that we are actively working on behalf of our institutions.
Okay, one question just came in. Can the leadership team make all proposals adaptable to the private sector as well?
Read that again.
Yeah, probably need to get them to elaborate on their question, but can the leadership team make all proposals adaptable to the private sector as well?
Well, I'll wait for Greg to respond.
I'm not so sure of where they're going with that question, but let me see if I can couch it in these terms. Whatever we propose to do in terms of advocating for our 3 universities, we're looking at the end product, which will be the student that we graduate from each one of these 3 universities. And when they graduate, regardless of what their degree is in, they are making an impact either in the state of Georgia or wherever they choose to reside once they graduate. And the contributions that they would make in that particular area would apply not only to the public sector, but also the private sector too, especially if you go into the areas of private industry with your degree, whether that's in computer science, technology, or whatever. I would say that adaptability would apply in the public sector just as well as it would in the private sector, if that answers the question.
And I would add to that, and I don't want to be I don't want to be the one that always adding to your comments, but as I understand the gist of the question is that GAAHBSU and the executive committee can work to expand its focus, or either it can work to maximize its focus. And right now the focus is on achieving the most for our institution through the legislative process. And that is focusing on the legislature at the Capitol and through the workings of the Capitol. And I don't think we've gotten the most out of that. So, which means in my mind, there's still much work to do in that regards, or we can expand it and include the private sector. So it depends on how you want to take that.
Yeah, if there are no other questions, Ken, Roy, again, thank you for facilitating this session. I thought it was very well done, and certainly we were excited to have the Lieutenant Governor and also the Dean of the House, along with Senator Jackson. And sorry that we couldn't get the Representative Patty Bentley on, but as I say, I'll reach out to her tomorrow. I want to also, again, thank all our participants for your participation. Please don't forget to fill out that digital survey at the end of the session. What things you like, what things you think went well, what are those things that you think we can improve upon going forward. And also, we invite you to participate tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's the last session, which will be the University President's Roundtable. That will kick off again at 7 o'clock. We will have the 3 university presidents come to us and give us updates on what's going on at their 3 respective universities. And one of the things that I've asked them to also talk about in their updates is what were the effects of the pandemic on each university, and what things they had to overcome, and what measures that they had to take in order to meet the challenges associated with the pandemic. I think a lot of our alumni will be certainly interested to hear about what's going on in that particular area. I don't know, Robert, if any of them submitted any visuals for us to incorporate into the system for tomorrow, but in case they did, I think you'll take care of that. But for the most part, most of them probably will be talking off the cuff, may not need any visuals, but in case they do, hopefully they've already submitted those visuals to you.
Greg, excuse me, Greg. Miss Patty Bentley has returned into the room.
Oh, has she? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let's go ahead and put her on now, Roy, if she's here.
She's in.
Okay.
She's on. There she is.
Hello, Patty.
Good evening, everyone.
Well, good evening. I thought you were upset with us. You took your marbles and left. No, I knew you had another engagement, and I knew you probably had to slip out. But we're certainly glad you came back in. So at this time, we'd invite you to just share some thoughts with our alumni. Of course, you know who we're all about. So if you would like, just share some thoughts with our alumni on the district you represent, and what you're doing for our 3 HBCUs.
Let me,
Well,
before Patty start, let me just say to Greg that we certainly appreciate you taking the time to come in. We know what conditions, what considerations exist in your family at this point, and we certainly want to keep your husband lifted up in prayer, and know that it takes some extra energy from you to do this and take care of him. So we appreciate you. We actually absolutely appreciate you spending the time with us and for all you do for GAAHBSU every time we have a conference.
absolutely. Thank you so much for that. Can you all hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. Well, listen, I won't prolong the time. It's already late in the evening. I just want to offer my greetings to you all on behalf of House District 139, which includes Taylor, Macon, Dooley counties, and the city of Fort Valley, which we're so proud to have Fort Valley State University a part of. And I'm sure Representative Calvin Smyre and other members of the General Assembly have shared with you all in detail of all the happenings here at the state capitol. And yes, I have a lot going on right now with my husband and family issues, but I thank you all for your prayers and support. And I'm going to continue to do all I can to work and support House District 139, but especially Fort Valley State University, Albany State University, and as well as Savannah State University. And I look forward to the big budget coming forward so we can all vote on the funding that's in the budget for all the institutions that I listed. And as a member of the House of Representatives, I'm serving on the Ways and Means Committee. Recently was appointed as vice chair of the subcommittee on sales tax for Ways and Means. Higher Education Committee recently received an appointment as secretary for the Higher Education Committee. Retirement, state retirement, intergovernmental coordination, which deals with state and county government, as well as agriculture. So, agriculture is really big in this state. But I know that the day has been long, and I'm just so excited that you all have been able to have a successful virtual conference thus far. And I just want to make sure all of you have my phone number, which is 478-391-1403. You can always call on me for anything that I can help you with. I'll be glad to speak to each of you individually for any questions or any concerns that you may have about anything that's going on across the state of Georgia. So again, I don't want to hold the time up, but I just wanted to log back in and at least give greetings to you all and wish you continued success on your conference the remainder part of the week. Thank you.
Thank you, Patty.
All right, Greg.
Okay. Again, I want to thank the legislators, the representatives, and the lieutenant governor for their time, and especially our alumni and all of our other friends and supporters for taking time to be with us. I wanted to, again, recognize our three national alumni presidents, Mr. Clyde Newton from Savannah State University, Mr. Keisha Thomas from Albany State University, and Mr. Ed Boston from Fort Valley State University. I want to recognize these three alumni, National Alumni Association presidents. And also, if we have any vice presidents from these universities on, I think Mr. Fleming is on. I think Will Simmons from Savannah State's also on. I don't know about anybody from Fort Valley State, but if you're on the call, we certainly want to recognize you and the jobs that you do at all three of our universities. I don't know whether our presidents are on tonight, but if you're listening in, Dr. Jones, Madam President Frederick, and Madam President Washington, if you're also on the call, we thank you for your participation tonight. And we look forward to your discussions on tomorrow night in an official capacity. I also want to thank Ms. Luann Gross. She's immediate past president of the Fort Valley State University National Alumni Association. She serves as our program committee chair, our planning committee chair this year. She's done an outstanding job along with her team, her planning committee, in putting this virtual conference together. Also want to recognize our technical experts, Mr. Ken Dandy, who also doubles as our treasurer for GAAHBSU, Mr. Robert Walker, also an alum of Fort Valley State University, and Miss Alana Davis. I don't know whether she's still on the call, but we certainly want to recognize the technical expertise of these three individuals who really have done a yeoman's job in putting this conference together and keeping us going and keeping us on schedule. I want to thank all the facilitators. The first night, of course, yours truly, and the second night, Roy Jackson. And tomorrow night, our facilitator will be Miss Beauty Baldwin, who also serves as our conference co-chair, executive committee co-chair. So I look forward to her facilitating the session tomorrow night. With that, folks, again, thank you for your participation. And if we don't have any other comments or announcements, please make sure that you complete the survey after the session. Complete the survey, the evaluations, what we did good, what we need to improve upon, and any other thoughts or comments you might want to make us aware of going forward. Luann, as our conference chair, planning committee chair, can you pull her up, Ken, to see if she has anything that she wants to say as the conference planning chair?
Yeah, Robert, you got to make me the host, or just go ahead and pull her up.
Pull her up, Robert.
She's on.
Hey, Luann.
She should be good.
Yeah, she got on mute. That's all.
Okay.
She just has to unmute herself.
Please unmute yourself, Luann. She doesn't want to, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't want you to think that I'm not trying to speak to you. I wanted to thank all the participants and to thank those individuals that registered and purchased ads for the conference. It will be a success because of you, and I just wanted to let you know that. Thank you all for everything that we have done here together. And together we are stronger. So I want to emphasize that as well. The theme for this year is appropriate because the better we work together, the more improved the processes are for our three state universities. Thank you again.
Thank you, Luann, for those comments, and I certainly echo those comments. One of the things I want to make all of our attendees aware of, a lot of you are already aware of this, but it doesn't hurt to reiterate this. Each year, GAAHBSU makes a contribution to each one of our universities of $1,000. We've been doing that now for a number of years, and on tomorrow night, we will again make that presentation to each one of these universities of $1,000 to go in each university's respective scholarship funds. It's not a whole lot of money, but every little bit helps. And I've often said that the difference between a student having to leave school because of lack of funds is not necessarily because they need thousands of dollars, but often the difference can mean staying in school for $100. So that's why I say every little bit helps. So we will make that presentation again on tomorrow night to each one of these university presidents of $1,000 each to go in that general scholarship fund. So if we don't have anything else, again, thank you all for your participation tonight, and we look forward to seeing you again on tomorrow night. And thank you again for your registrations. Thank you again for your ads that you put in our souvenir booklet. So with that, I will say good night to everybody. Thank you again, and please stay safe, and we'll see you on tomorrow night starting at 7 o'clock. Good night.
Thanks.